Hello class. I hope yesterday's exploration of the forces of nature was enjoyable. A gentle break from the vile races we were speaking of previously. Today we will speak of what may be both the simplest and yet the most mysterious of the races of Mantica. Today, we will speak of the Ogres. When one looks upon the brutish appearance of an ogre, one can understandably have certain preconceived notions about the race. Bigger and stronger than an orc, with a protruding jawline and a forehead you could land a dragon on, it's easy to consider them simple brutes. Engage with an ogre with such a notion in mind, however, and you are in for a bad time. Ogres are intelligent as any human elf or dwarf. Many of them able to speak multiple languages and can debate on philosophical matters with surprising insights. With such a wealth of intelligence, it makes their lack of interest in anything but combat and survival truly bizarre. Now before I continue, I should mention that ogres don't care about history. Well, that is not exactly true. They do have an oral tradition, but their stories tend to be focused on living ogres and their accomplishments, as well as the cultural mores of their particular tribe. But about their ancient history or legends, they seem to care less, which is quite frustrating, as what little can be gleaned from scholars of other races, ogres are as old as any other race on Mantica, perhaps living in the mammoth steppes they call home since the beginning of time. The mammoth steppes is a vast, harsh, frozen landscape full of extremely tough and dangerous beasts of all shapes and sizes. It is in these harsh lands that ogres roam, organized into tribes ranging in size from small families to camps hundreds strong, and all constantly on the move. Each nomadic tribe avoiding each other as they gather resources, hunt beasts for meat, and avoid the dangers of the steppes, the tribes only meeting for trade or mutual defense. Although a simple if dangerous life, these ogres seem content to simply roam these steppes as they have always done. But on occasion, a few ogres will experience an almost instinctual urge within them, an urge appropriately named the calling. Every year, a handful of ogres, small compared to the vast numbers that roam the steppes, experience this calling. They become suddenly dissatisfied with the nomadic lifestyle they've always known, and gain the urge to travel the world. Completely splitting from their familial ties, they travel south across the steppes alone. Some die along the way, but those that make it find themselves in a wider world, with opportunities opening up in the southern lands as explorers, bodyguards, and especially mercenaries. With a strong body built from a harsh life in the wastes, a keen intelligence, and a gift for languages, it comes as no surprise that ogres find quick work as mercenaries. This, combined with their practical and neutral temperament, allows them to work with any side that is willing to pay them, whether it be the dwarves, orcs, or even the most twisted of abyssals. As long as the pay is right, they will work for you. It isn't unheard of for ogres to end a contract with one nation, only to immediately strike up another contract with that nation's enemies, which is a smart policy if you want to ensure steady pay from a single employer until the end of a particular war. Now these ogres could become independent, working as a single ogre in a human or elf army for example, and especially skilled ogres have been known to gain high ranks in said armies, despite the prejudices such armies may have. But more often than not, these ogres find more of their kind, and form the ogre mercenary companies that are highly prized in many a battlefield. Eventually these ogres rise through the ranks, and become ogre warlords themselves, either leading the company they were a part of, or branching off to form their own war bands. And once they do, they find they must recruit more of their kind to become a viable fighting force. And the best time to do this is during a cultural event at the steppes simply called The Thing. Happening once every few years, The Thing is a social gathering and tribal parliament deep in the mammoth steppes. And here, all of the tribes meet. Here, debts are settled, marriages are sanctified, conflicts between tribes are negotiated, and, for the ogre warlords, recruitment is done. bringing back gold and tales of the adventurous life they lead as mercenaries. Many are tempted, and soon after the thing is done, the Ogre Warlord returns from the steppes with a gaggle of new young ogres wishing to join their ranks. I should note, however, that these ogres, unlike the Ogre Warlords, have never heard the calling, and thus never had the instinctual urge to leave their homes. They are just like the use of so many other races, who hear tales that make them want to explore the outer world. After a few years, most of these young ogres, if they survive, will return to their tribes with interesting tales, bags full of gold, and a badly battered but functional set of arms and armor. However, until then, these young ogres make up the bulk of the ogre army. These massive recruits' natural survival skills and strength honed in the brutal steppes are further enhanced with advanced weapon training and battle drills, making them quite a formidable fighting force. Most of them become warriors, wielding heavy swords and shields and using the money they gained in combat to buy thick iron plates instead of the hides they used to wear. Some even favor orc cleavers, massive two-handed blades that, as the name implies, are quite good at cleaving through a thick orc skull. Those with range skill can wield heavy crossbows as shooters, or blunderbusses as boomers, both weapons supplied by the industrious dwarves, who consider the reliable ogres as some of their best customers. When wielded in combat, these weapons feel less like simple ranged weaponry and more like small artillery. Before I continue with the more specialized ogre units, I should mention the goblins. Goblins are attracted to the wealth and power of the ogres. The usually cruel and cunning nature of the goblins seem to be overwhelmed by the presence of these massive ogres capable of gaining so many shiny things. As such, goblins are known to join ogre armies as a supplementary fighting force, the goblins performing menial tasks for the ogres such as cleaning and the mending of equipment, and in combat, their numbers and cunning aiding the ogres in a variety of situations. We will go over the particular composition of a goblin army in another class. The ogres take a strange pride in their goblins, assigning them the almost pet name of Red Goblins, using red armor or red war paint to differentiate them from the common goblin rabble, colors which the goblins wear with pride, and any non-ogres who mistreat their little goblin buddies will find themselves in a very awkward and most likely painful situation. Although most ogres are skilled at things such as tracking and hunting due to their life in the steppes, the especially talented gain the well-earned title of Ogre Hunters, the skilled trackers and scouts using the skills they gain hunting the behemoths of the steppes against the ogre army's latest enemies. When faced with a stubborn fortification, the ogres will bring out their siege breakers, ogre veterans with massive hammers and thick armor specialized in breaking down castle gates. There is also cavalry, although you will not see ogre riders. No beast can truly withstand an ogre's size and weight, but that doesn't stop ogres from using chariots. Using the ramshackle, but surprisingly sturdy chariots of the orcs, which they either took as payment or gained as war loot from a previous battle, the ogre warriors or ogre boomers use them to quickly rush into the enemy. On occasion, they are also known to gain the aid of a mighty mammoth, a massive furry beast of the steppes, whose thick hide and immense bulk can withstand most attacks, and whose massive temper at receiving such attacks can make it lay waste to entire companies. And then of course, we come to leadership, and that comes in the form of the ogre warlords. Bigger and stronger than most ogres due to years of constant combat, ogres view these warlords with both admiration and repulsion. For these warlords, whether due to the calling or simple preference, love the ways of the southern lands. The comfortable living and the almost sinful variety of foods they indulge in, making the ogres used to the harsh conditions of the steppes uncomfortable. I mean, why spend time in a lavish bed with strange fluffy pillows when an ogre only needs a blanket on a stone floor and a thick tarp to protect you from the cold winds? Anything else seems excessive. Despite these feelings, ogres will always follow the order of their warlord because unlike other armies, there is no real politics in ogre society. Most just follow the strongest and most successful, a view that has worked well for them in the steppes they call home. Unlike the orcs, however, who follow a similar policy, if another ogre proves themselves stronger and a better leader, There is no fight to the death for leadership. The older leader tends to simply step down, willing to take orders from the new warlord with no hint of shame or mockery from his former troops. To lose a strong warrior to a fight to the death, most likely a ridiculous notion to such a practical people. That said, ogres aren't free of all mortal weaknesses. Ogres are natural boasters. They love to collect trophies, and boast of their accomplishments to whoever is in earshot. And of course, the most aggressive and strongest ogres tend to get the best and the most loot. This can lead to feelings of envy in those below them. Most ogres turn this into healthy motivation, pushing them to get stronger so they can get better rewards. A few, however, steer towards the evils of jealousy, and may eventually perform actions that may be detrimental to the ogres as a whole. Warlords are aware of these feelings and encourage them, using it to motivate those under their command to greater and greater heights. Before I end this class, I should speak of the greatest mystery of the ogres. And no, it's not their lack of history, although it may be part of it. It's their obsession with money. I know, mercenaries and money, what a surprise. But the level of obsession that ogres have for gold and jewels makes even the dwarves seem like aesthetic monks in comparison, willing to negotiate for hours to ensure they gain the most money possible before signing a contract. Money they don't really use. Besides buying what is necessary to maintain their army, ogres almost never spend the money they gain through mercenary work. And by the end of their time with their mercenary warband, they simply return to their tribes in the north with bags filled with the coin and jewels they gained in the southern lands. Coin that is utterly useless in the bartering economy of the tribal steppes. This has led to legends of mountains of coin hidden in the waste waiting for an adventurous treasure hunter to find and take for themselves. Although adventurers who attempt such a trek never return, so such mountains of coins have so far remained legend. Well class, I hope you enjoyed this lesson on the ogres. If you ever meet one, and have enough coin to gain his or her service, you will have a strong, loyal arm willing to fight by your side. Just make sure not to stiff them on their payment. It will end, poorly. For the next lesson class, we will discuss a race previously mentioned. Next class, we will discuss the Goblins. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Ogres in the Kings of War universe. An army that, honestly, after reading the lore, I kind of like quite a bit. They're sort of like this practical, cool mercenary dudes who are also like 8-foot-tall monsters. Kind of awesome. I also want to say, sorry it took so long to get this video out since my last Kings of War video. It's been hectic all around for some of the reasons you know, because the world. Anyway, hope you liked it, and if you like it, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell so you know whenever I post. And if you really like it and you're inclined, please send a little money my way through my Patreon account or through my Ko-fi account. The extra money gives me the time I need to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening/watching, and see you next time.